is Rosa
Brennan.
Brennan, a photographer. I'm going to ask her a few questions. So, how did you become a photographer?
I saw a book of photography that somebody gave me as a gift. And I said, that's what I want to do.
What was your first, when was your first official photograph?
I would say, now this is way before this. I was a photographer for my yearbook in high school. And my brother gave me a really good camera. So I took photographs of my family in Mexico during vacation, and they came out so good that I realized how important having a good picture is.
Why did you want to pursue photography as your career?
Well, I didn't do it as a career necessarily. I did it a lot, and I did it because I felt the impulse to do it, like I had to do it, like I couldn't stop doing it because I loved it so much.
Do you show other people how your skills, and do you offer help in becoming a photographer?
I think it's very important that any photographer become a mentor to people who want to learn. And yes, I was always excited whenever people would come up to me and say, hey, what kind of camera is that? Or how do you do that? And I'm like, well, let me show you. If you're interested, I'll show you how.
Did anyone first introduce you to photography? Like, if they did, who?
That's a good question. I didn't know any photographers growing up necessarily. But once I started doing it, it seemed like all the photographers came out of the woodwork because they all want to talk about photography.
Okay.
I think she has her camera over there, Jahara. Do
I
you
have a
want to see
few.
some things?
Do you want to see a few cameras?
Sure.
Okay, let me put a few on the table.
Okay.
So the main one I use is probably the Nikon series. So this is a Nikon, and this is just another one I've been using too. Not an expensive one, but it works really well. It's called a Ricoh. And here's one of my flashes. It's a very inexpensive J.C. Penney brand, but it works just fine. And let me see what other cameras I have.
How do you tell the difference from cameras other cameras without having to read them?
You mean what's the difference between them?
Mhm.
Well, a lot of it has to do with, they're the same in a lot of ways, right? But some are just a lot more comfortable, some are a lot more heavy than others. They have different kinds of lenses that are special to that camera. So like the Nikon lenses, you can buy them and flip them between Nikons, but you can't flip them between other kinds, right? So, but I just happen to like Nikons.
Do you prefer Nikons?
I do. Everybody has their likes, what they like to use, right? Here's kind of an old-fashioned one. This is a medium format. This is 35 millimeter, and this is 120. So it takes different films.
What was your first what was your first kind of type of camera you first used when you did photography?
I would say that would be in about 1985. I used what's the name of it? I think it was a Pentax. I think that's what it was. But it was one of those ones, it was super fancy because it had autofocus. And I thought that was like crazy, amazing, you know? So it made it really easy. I liked it.
I think that's all the questions I have.
Do you, are any of those digital cameras?
I think I'll...
I don't own any digital cameras actually.
Oh.
These are all film cameras.
Oh, I couldn't tell the difference between digital cameras and film cameras.
Sure. Well, certainly the professional digital cameras, they look a lot like that, right? Yeah, they do. They look very similar.
That's why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why.
Why do you prefer film over digital?
It's just because it was what I first started using, so I got used to it. And I was comfortable with it, and to be honest with you, I never learned digital photography.
Do you have any people now that you look up to who do digital or film photography?
Oh, absolutely. I've made friends with a lot of photographers who are just amazing, amazing photographers, and most of them use both, and they're very good at both.
Okay. Is there anything else you think people should know about photography before we stop our video?
What do you think is a good camera? What do you think is the best camera to use?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. I would say start with a camera that's easy to use and that you know how to use, because if you get a camera that has a million gadgets on it and things you can do with it, if you never learn how to use it, you're not going to like photography very much. So something that's comfortable and easy to use for you.
Got it.
Okay. So, okay, can you show us that old camera?
Sure.
That one's neat. What year is that one from?
This is I'm going to guess this is it's a replica, so it's probably only from 1990 or so.
Oh, okay.
But this particular style of camera has been around since the 30s, maybe 1930s or so. This is what cameras used to look like. So people used to have, instead of little cameras, they'd like have these hanging around their neck.
Oh,
So it's nice that the cameras have gotten a lot smaller. It makes it a lot easier.
So, okay, well, thank you very much.
Those were great questions. She's a great interviewer.
Oh, thank
That was
you.
excellent. And just how you didn't have to look at your notes. You knew what you wanted to ask. That was fantastic. And it just